I confessed every dirty detail. Every moan. Every lie. Every touch. And he smiled. Before we dive in, I just want to say a massive thank you to every single one of you who has subscribed to this channel. Your support means everything to me. To all our new and returning viewers who have not hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? Your one click is the fuel that keeps this channel alive and thriving. Do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments section. I cannot wait to read what you think after this one because trust me, this is not your usual infidelity story. Now, let us begin. I did not expect to feel his breath on my neck again after what I had done. Yet there he was, my husband, calm, warm, gently closing the door behind him as I sat trembling on our cream leather sofa, clutching my glass of red wine like it could somehow absolve me. It was a Thursday night. The night before our anniversary. 15 years of marriage. 15 years of routine dinners, polite intimacy, mutual friends, suburban quiet. And now, 15 months of secrets. My name is Claire Morrison. I am a 38-year-old Pilates instructor living in a quiet suburb of Alpharetta, Georgia. If you saw me at the grocery store in my yoga pants and messy bun, you would never guess I was capable of betrayal. But I am. I did it. I cheated. The man I cheated with is named Darren Holt. He is 41. Married. 2 kids. We met at the local yoga studio where I teach. It started with flirty banter. Then it became lust. Then addiction. Then guilt. Every time I told my husband, Grant, that I was heading to a stretch and restore session after dinner, I was really bending for another man in the back of his Range Rover. And last night, I decided I could not carry the weight anymore. I was choking on my own lies. I needed to purge the truth. I needed to confess everything before I exploded. I had imagined the scene 1,000 times. I thought he would throw something. Cry. Curse me. Call me names I probably deserved. Or maybe he would just leave. Slam the door and vanish into the night. But nothing, prepared me for his smile. Let me take you back to how it began. It was subtle. Too subtle. That is how they all begin, I guess. Darren joined my class a year and a half ago. He was charming in that arrogant, confident way that some men in their 40s carry. He was not traditionally handsome, but he had this way of locking eyes when he spoke to you, like nothing else mattered in the world. He started staying after class. Asking questions he already knew the answers to. Can you show me that spine twist again? Is my form okay when I hold this stretch? The first time we kissed, it was raining. We had stayed late talking about how unfulfilled we both felt. He leaned in. I did not stop him. The first time we had sex, it was in the back of his car in the studio parking lot. It was primal. Quick. Wrong. And addictive. I promised myself it would stop. But it never did. He made me feel wanted. He made me feel seen in a way Grant had not in years. My husband loved me, yes, but love and lust are not twins. And I had gone too long without the latter. Every time I came home after being with Darren, I would shower so hard I thought I could scrub my guilt off. But it stuck to me like tar. I had cooked Grant's favorite meal, chicken marsala. I lit the candles. Poured the wine. I told him we needed to talk. He sat across from me, still in his office attire, tie loosened, tired eyes, that little line between his brows that deepened when he was stressed. I did not ease into it. I have been seeing someone else. He blinked. Just once. I swallowed. Then I told him everything. Every time. Every excuse. Every room. Every moan. Every lie I had told. I did not cry until I said Darren's name out loud. It was the first time I heard it in our home. And then, when I was done, I looked at him, waiting for the explosion. But there was none. He sipped his wine slowly. His eyes did not blink again. And then, he smiled. A slow, terrifying, knowing smile. Not bitter. Not pained. Not sarcastic. Just calm. As if he had expected this moment. As if I had simply confirmed a theory he had long proven. He leaned back in his chair and asked if I was done. I nodded. He said, "Good. Then I can speak now." That was when the fear really began. Who is Grant Morrison? My husband is not the type to raise his voice. He works in cybersecurity for a major bank. He lives in systems, logic, control. That is who he is. He is a man who plans. Who calculates. Which made me realize, he had seen this coming. He started telling me how he had known for months. My changing perfume. The different yoga mat. The way I stopped asking him to fix things around the house. The way I kept the lights dim during intimacy. He said he had checked my phone, once. That was all he needed. But he had waited. Because, according to him, people always confess right before anniversaries. It is when guilt bubbles over. That smile never left his face. Then he stood, picked up our plates, and said, "I will sleep in the guest room tonight." I sat frozen, my stomach a black pit of dread. I wanted him to scream. To beg me to stay. To hate me. Anything but this. This calmness was colder than any silence I had ever heard. Grant went about life like nothing had changed. He brought me coffee. Kissed me on the forehead. Sent me sweet texts during work hours. But I could feel something shifting. He started working late more often. He bought a new suit. Went to the gym again. He was planning something. I began to unravel. One night I checked his laptop. Locked. I asked him where he was going one Friday night. He said, to get even. Eventually. And smiled again. I could not sleep after that. 3 days after my confession, I found an envelope on my side of the bed. No name. Just one sentence typed on crisp paper. I already knew everything, so now let me introduce you to what I have done. Inside the envelope was a photo. Of Darren. Holding hands with his wife. Standing on my front porch. And smiling. I stared at the photo for so long my eyes burned. Darren was standing beside his wife, Wendy. She was holding his hand with both of hers, resting her head against his shoulder. He looked so happy. The kind of polished, practiced happy that made you want to believe the camera had caught them mid-laugh, not mid-lie. But the background of the photo made my stomach twist violently. They were on my porch. In front of my red door. A door I had painted myself 2 summers ago when I was trying to convince myself that I loved being a suburban wife. I picked up the envelope again. No postmark. No name. Just that single sheet of paper with words I could not unsee. I already knew everything, so now let me introduce you to what I have done. My hands trembled. The room spun. I felt like the walls were closing in. What the hell was going on? I wanted to scream, but I did not know who to scream at. Darren? He had not spoken to me since I told him I was going to confess everything. He had not replied to my messages, my calls, my voice notes. Nothing. I thought he was just lying low to protect his marriage. But this? This was something else entirely. Was Grant watching me? Was he tracking every move I made? Did he know when I showered, what I ate, when I left the house? Suddenly, I felt naked in my own skin. For the first time, I feared my husband. Not because he would hit me, Grant was not that kind of man. But because I no longer knew who I was married to. When I married Grant, I believed I had won the lottery. He was intelligent, driven, and calm in a way that balanced out my impulsiveness. He grounded me. He always said that he liked how wild my spirit was. But I now realized, he did not want to tame me, he wanted to study me. He watched. He waited. He absorbed. And when I broke the rules of his order, when I stepped outside the code of loyalty he built our life on, he decided to rewrite the narrative. His way. That weekend, Grant told me we were going to a small dinner party. Just a few couples, he said. You know them all. I told him I did not feel like being social. He looked at me with that same terrifying smile. You really should come, Claire. It would be rude not to show up. After everything. The last words chilled me. I wore a black dress. Simple. Safe. Not the red one I had worn when I first seduced Darren at a yoga instructor conference in Savannah. I suddenly hated that red dress. When we arrived, I saw them immediately. Darren and Wendy. Sitting on the other side of the room. Laughing. Drinking. Her hand on his thigh. And then, he looked at me. And he winked. Like we were in on some inside joke. Like he knew something I did not. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream across the table and demand answers. But I smiled, because I could feel Grant's hand resting lightly on the small of my back, a reminder that I was now just a piece on a chessboard he was moving. Dinner was excruciating. Every fork scrape felt like nails on a chalkboard. Every wine glass clink was a gunshot. Grant made polite conversation. He complimented Wendy's earrings. He laughed at Darren's dumb work story. It was surreal. I was sitting beside the man I betrayed, while facing the man I betrayed him with, who now seemed entirely untouchable. As we cleared the table, Wendy pulled me aside. Her voice was light, almost casual. Claire, I am just so glad we are all being grown-ups about everything. I blinked at her. What do you mean? She smiled. Oh, you know. The affair. Darren told me everything. Said you were intense. But broken. I figured it was just a phase. My ears started ringing. She leaned in, her perfume overwhelming, and whispered, I always knew he needed something reckless. You gave him that. But he always comes home to me. I did not respond. I could not. My throat had dried up like sandpaper. Then she walked off to rejoin the group like she had just commented on the weather. That night, back home, I sat in the corner of our bedroom with the lights off. Grant stood in the doorway for a long time before walking in. He sat on the edge of the bed and removed his shoes slowly. I wanted you to see it, he said calmly. How disposable you are to him. How irrelevant. I thought you needed closure. I said nothing. My cheeks were burning. My soul, shattered. He stood again, walked to me, and knelt down. You told me everything, he whispered. So I thought I would return the favor. He pulled a folder from under the bed. Inside were printed screenshots. Emails. Voicemails. Photos. Not of me. But of Darren. And not just with me. With other women. One with a blonde in a hotel hallway. Another with a younger woman in a park. A kiss. A grope. A date stamp from 6 months ago. Your affair, Grant said, was not even original. I cried for hours that night. Not just because I had betrayed my husband, but because I had destroyed my marriage for a man who had never chosen me. Grant had known everything. But instead of confronting me, he had chosen to humiliate me. To let me stew in my own shame. To twist the knife in the most elegant way. That dinner party? That was not revenge. That was a lesson. From that night on, Grant treated me like a guest in my own home. He stopped calling me babe. He slept in the guest room. He removed our photos from the hallway. And slowly, his things started disappearing. His books. His suits. His laptop. But he never mentioned divorce. He never raised his voice. He never made a scene. Instead, he said things like, I hope you find what you are really looking for. Let me know when the house starts to feel empty. Freedom has a price, Claire. You paid it. I started noticing something strange too. Our joint bank account began to shrink. I checked with the bank. All his income had been rerouted to a private account under his name only, 3 months ago. On a Monday morning, I woke up to silence. No smell of coffee. No morning hum. I went downstairs. On the counter, I found a set of keys. A divorce petition. And one last note. You always wanted passion. Now you have it, alone. The house was in my name. The debt was in both of ours. But the man I married had disappeared, like a ghost that never really belonged to this earth. I stood in that kitchen for what felt like hours, reading that note over and over again. You always wanted passion. Now you have it, alone. No signature. No goodbye. No second chance. Just a final sentence so cold it could have been carved into stone. And just like that, Grant was gone. The man who had slept beside me for 15 years, the man whose scent lingered in our sheets, who once whispered promises into my hair while we made love, had disappeared without a sound. He took nothing but his dignity and his revenge. The paperwork was already in motion. He had hired a top-tier attorney, the kind who made it clear in one phone call that I should not expect mercy. The house was mine, yes, but only because it was about to become my prison. He had quietly refinanced it 6 months ago. Which meant I now owed over $200,000 on a home I could barely afford with my Pilates studio income. And our savings? Wiped clean. Not illegally, no. Grant was far too smart for anything so reckless. Everything he did was by the book. Calculated. Cruel. Legal. I quickly found out that silence spreads faster than gossip. The neighbors stopped waving. A few clients paused their memberships at the studio. Even the barista at my local coffee shop stopped making small talk. People knew. Or sensed. Or maybe it was just the look in my eyes, the hollow kind of guilt that cannot be masked with concealer or fake smiles. Wendy showed up at my studio once. I tried to avoid eye contact, but she made a show of hugging me at the front desk. She whispered, "You were just one of many. But do not beat yourself up. Darren is a collector. He always has been." Then she walked away, as if I were a toddler who had been scolded for spilling juice. One night I drank an entire bottle of Cabernet alone on the kitchen floor. I scrolled through old photos, Grant in his college hoodie, smiling by the fire pit, holding my waist like I was his whole world. I had once been everything to him. Now I was a chapter he had closed with surgical precision. I was not sleeping. I was not eating. The house was silent, too silent. And I was starting to lose track of time. I began writing letters to Grant I never sent. Apologies. Explanations. Desperate, rambling messes of guilt and sorrow. But the silence remained. And that silence? It hurt more than any scream. 3 months after he left, I ran into Grant at a Whole Foods. He looked radiant. Healthier. Confident. Different. He had a woman with him. Not young. Not flashy. Just elegant and warm. He saw me. He nodded. And then, to my surprise, he walked over. "Claire," he said softly. I could not speak. I was trembling. "I want to thank you," he said. "You gave me permission to stop pretending." I whispered, "I was selfish." He shook his head. "You were unhappy. And so was I. I just never had the nerve to break the spell." I looked at the woman beside him. She was watching us with quiet understanding. "Are you happy?" I asked. He paused. "I am free. And that feels better than happy." He smiled, a different smile this time. Not the chilling one. A real one. Then he turned and walked away. It has been almost a year since my confession. My studio nearly closed, but I survived. I took on private clients. Started doing online tutorials. Rebuilt from the ruins. I still live in the house. The red door remains. But everything else has changed. I no longer check my phone expecting messages. I no longer chase validation in stolen touches and whispered lies. I have learned the cost of betrayal is not just what you lose, but what it awakens in the people you break. Grant was never the man I thought he was. He was far more dangerous, because his love was real. And when you betray someone who loves you deeply, you do not just destroy their heart. You awaken their silence. And that silence? It will haunt you louder than any scream ever could.